Hello everyone, and welcome to another Monster Hunter World Iceborne video. So I haven't made many of these in a while, and the reason for that is because I've been busy playing Iceborne. It's a terrific expansion. F in the chat for PC, I feel so bad for them. They have to wait 4 months before they can play. But yeah, I've been so busy. I haven't been making any videos. We're going to change that now. One of the things I want to say before we get started, I do have a terrific Discord server. You're welcome to join me there. If you want to join me in my live streams and play live with me, that's where I post my session IDs early. I'll play with anyone. I'll help anyone. We'll have a lot of sessions where we help players once I've reached a certain, once I've reached a certain level in the game, I'll just start helping people who need help. So yeah, consider that. I'll leave a link to it in the description, in the comment section. We'd love to see some new faces. Let's go ahead and talk about the topic today. So we're going to be talking about the 10 strongest skills in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. And of course, we're really talking about damaging skills. All right, there's kind of three categories if you want to split it up, if you want to be real nitpicky. There's damage skills, there's utility skills, and then there's defensive skills. But really, I mostly just think of it as damage and defense, right? And we're going to be talking about damage skills. We'll have another video where we talk about defense skills. So these skills are going to increase your damage output. They're really important for causing flinches on the monster, causing part breaks on the monster, getting the monster dead, which is the whole goal, right? These are going to improve this the most. Now, one thing I want to point out about the list is at the bottom of the list is going to be the skill that I consider the strongest. The rest of them are not ordered, but the one at the bottom is the strongest. So don't click out of the video too soon. Make sure you at least watch the ending. All right, we're going to start out with Crit Boost. Crit Boost, if you've been playing the base game for a while, if you're a veteran or anything of the sorts, if you've watched my older videos, my older build videos, you know Crit Boost was going to be in this list. Critical Boost, basically, the game has critical damage in it. And the way you get critical damage is you get your affinity up. Your affinity gives you a chance for critical damage on the monster. So if you have 25% affinity, you have a 25% chance of getting a critical hit. When that critical hit lands, you're going to get bonus damage. Crit hits get bonus damage. And what Crit Boost does is it increases the amount of bonus damage, okay? And that's why we like Crit Boost so much. Now, the type of damage that it raises is going to be your basic attack damage. We call it raw damage, right? It doesn't affect elemental. Doesn't affect your ailments, just your raw damage, okay? So if your weapon, it says it has 300 base attack, that's the type of damage that's going to receive benefits from Crit Boost. Now, the second skill on the list is going to be Critical Element. Critical Element works just like Critical Boost. It's the same idea. You build up your affinity, you're getting critical hits on the monster, and you're getting bonus critical elemental damage because of this skill. So it's actually a really important skill. It was the entire time in the base game. In Iceborne, we have an even stronger version of it called True Critical Element. You're going to get 4 pieces of the Silver Rathalos armor set in order to build True Critical Element. And I feel like Capcom probably did that on purpose, because what they're saying is you have to invest fully 4 pieces of armor to build this, which means you're not going to be able to pair it with any other armor sets, right? Some armor sets require 2 pieces, some armor sets require 3 pieces. You're going to have to take all 4 pieces of this set in order to have this skill, so the bonus must be really strong. Then we have Gold Wrathian, which is giving us True Critical Status. Critical Status is a skill, it's just like Crit Boost, it's just like Crit Element. When you get critical hits on the monster, you get to deal bonus ailment damage, and you know, this is for like sleep, this is for like paralysis. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I wasn't a fan on it for weapons in the base game. I suspect I won't like it for Iceborne still, unless there's some really strong blast and poison weapons, but sleep and paralysis, I just feel like it's better on a bowgun or a bow when you can control when the monster is being put to sleep or when the monster is being paralyzed, right? Usually the fight is hardest at the end of the fight, not at the beginning, and it's usually when you're using a sleep or paralysis weapon, you just end up wasting all the sleep or paralysis on them at the beginning of the fight, and then they become resistant to it, right? So the last thing I want to mention for slot number 2 or rank number 2 in this list is the Teostra technique. This is going to be the Master's Touch skill everyone knows and loves. It is back in Iceborne. I've heard rumors that people think speedrunners will still be using the Draken armor set because when you speedrun, you don't take any hits, right? So I've heard rumors that people still want to use Master's Touch from the Draken set, but of course we also have Master's Touch from the Teostra set as well. And for those who don't know what it does, of course what it does is when you land a critical hit of any type, you know, with your affinity higher, you don't lose any sharpness. And this was a big deal in the base game. It was basically the meta. So we've covered a few: Critical Element, True Critical Element, True Critical Status, and Master's Touch for rank 2 in the list here. Next up, number 3, we're going to be talking about affinity-based skills. You have Critical Eye, Weakness Exploit, and max might. Okay, so these didn't get their individual categories in this list because they all do the same thing, and you're going to be putting them together. You won't necessarily put crit boost and crit element together. You will probably be stringing these skills together. So critical eye just gives you what we call static affinity. It means you get it no matter what. There's no condition to it. And critical eye has moved up in importance as weakness exploit and max might have been nerfed. So weakness exploit now gives you, at level 3, 30% affinity, 50% if the monster has a softened part or softened hide from the clutch claw. Okay, so weakness exploit, still a really good skill, not as good as it used to be. It used to just always give you 50%, and that's, that was better. That would be considered a buff if they ever brought it back. Max might has been heavily nerfed for all melee weapons. Melee weapons often have to roll, melee weapons often have to run, and max might now deactivates if you've used any stamina, and it stays deactivated for a while depending on what level you have it at. There could be a case where you still want to use max might with maybe a max might secret, where you bring it up to level 5 and it works like the way it used to work. However, right now I'm not 100% convinced that we're going to be using that. It'll work terrifically on bowguns, because bowguns don't necessarily have to roll. They can kind of strafe, they can kind of chill back. So max might is still very legit for bowguns. For melee weapons, I think that the nerf to max might has been very effective. Okay, so crit eye, weakness exploit, max might, these are used for raising your affinity, and of course we pair affinity with crit boost and with crit element, because you need to increase your odds of actually getting a critical attack before it's worth actually adding skills that increase the damage of your critical attacks. So if you only have 10% affinity, don't build crit boost. There's no reason to. It's only going to activate 10% of the time. If you have 90% affinity, build all the crit boost, because your crit boost is going to be active. You're going to be getting critical hits most of the time. And kind of the cutoff line is around the 60% mark. Okay, so between 60 and 70, you want to start finishing crit boost. I would say at 70%, bring your crit boost up to level 3. At 60%, you only need crit boost at level 2. And crit element doesn't work like crit boost. Crit element is just one skill. It doesn't have multiple levels to it. It's either on or off. Okay, so you don't have to worry as much about that. Next up on the list, we have handicraft. So handicraft raises your sharpness. It can raise it to white sharpness. It can raise it even to purple sharpness. And it's such an important skill to have. Basically, you want to be able to reach purple sharpness, and you want to be able to stay in it as long as you can. So it's got supporting skills. Supporting skills would be like Master's Touch, speed sharpening, protective polish. Those are supporting skills to the handicraft skill, kind of the way affinity is supporting crit boost and crit element. When you're in those white sharpness, purple sharpness bars, you're getting a damage multiplier, and that damage multiplier is raising your damage. So yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of handicraft. It's going to be a big part of your build. It's going to be a big part of understanding which weapons are doing the most damage. So of course it made it onto this list. It's kind of like that's kind of like the whole setup right there. Crit boost, crit element, handicraft, critical eye, weakness exploit, max might, and then the supporting skills for handicraft, which I mentioned it once again, Master's Touch, protective polish, and speed sharpening. All right, so that's kind of the whole package right there for melee weapons. Now we're going to move on to talking about the skills that affect bowguns and bows. We're going to start with free element, ammo up, and elementalist. They're two separate skills. They're kind of like different sides of the same coin, I want to say, right? They affect kind of the same idea. Let's start out with the free element / ammo up skill. It does two different things depending on what weapon you're using it on. So free element, what does it do? You're going to have weapons where the ailment and the elemental damage is locked away. You can see them in brackets. So that's a locked away skill, and free element basically unlocks it. When you unlock it, you get to do that damage. So if you have 500 ice damage locked away, you can unlock all of it by taking free element to level 3, and then you deal that extra 500 elemental damage. Let's say you have like dual blades or a bow. It's actually pretty valuable on dual blades and a bow. It's questionably valuable on weapons with a fast attack speed, but not quite super fast, like a lance, insect glaive. And then on slow weapons like a great sword or hammer or hunting horn, you probably don't want to unlock that skill. You'll be using the other skill, elementalist. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now let's talk about the other side of free element ammo up, the ammo up side. What does ammo up do? Well, let's say you have a bowgun and you want to do more damage with the bowgun. One of the ways you do that is by increasing your clip size. The reason why having a larger clip size makes you do more damage is because you reload fewer times. So imagine you have one bullet per clip. Every time you shoot it, you're going to have to stop and reload. That's going to affect your damage per second, right? That's your DPS, because every time you shoot, now you gotta do this goofy reload. right? But let's say you had 10 shots in the clip. You just go shoot, 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 shoot. You just keep going and going and going, right? So larger clip size is better. Ammo up gives you a larger clip size. If you have level 1 ammo, you need level 1 ammo up. If you have level 2 ammo, you need level 2 ammo up. And likewise, if you have level 3 ammo, you need level 3 ammo up. That's how free element ammo up works. Now, the other skill, Elementalist. We were talking about locked away skills. So let's say you have a greatsword. It's got locked away, I don't know, ice damage of 500. Should you unlock it with free element? Hell no. You should give it Elementalist instead, because slow weapons don't really get that much benefit from elemental damage. They get more benefit from raw damage. And Elementalist is going to raise your raw damage if you have a hidden away ailment or hidden away element. That's how Elementalist is working. They actually had to nerf it because it was so strong, and guess what? It's still pretty strong. You're still going to be using it on your non-elemental weapons. It's often how you talk about them. What about bowguns? Can bowguns be non-elemental? So all bowguns claim to be non-elemental. This is not true. If your bowgun has elemental ammo, the Elementalist decoration will not work on it. Your bowgun has to have no elemental ammo in order for the Elementalist decoration to work on it. That includes dragon ammo, by the way. Dragon ammo counts as an elemental ammo. So that's how it works. Elementalist is just going to give you a straight up boost to your damage output if you have no elements. Free element ammo up is going to either increase your ammo clip or is going to unlock a hidden element. Let's talk about one of my favorite skills in the game, Artillery. Artillery is a skill that directly increases the damage of explosive type damage. Notice I'm not saying blast type damage. Blast is an ailment. Explosive type damage. So there's a few types of damage in the game. You've got sever damage. This comes from like great swords and long swords. Blunt damage. This comes from hammers and horns. Primarily, and shot damage. This comes from bowguns and bows. Then you have this fourth thing that we usually don't worry too much about called explosive damage. That's because explosive damage completely ignores hit zone values. Hit zone values determine how much damage a monster will take on a particular body part from a particular type of damage. Explosive damage completely ignores that. It also ignores affinity, and it ignores crit boost, okay? So explosive damage just kind of does set damage. And artillery, the artillery skill actually increases that. In fact, we have a new Zora Magdaros armor set that allows you to bring artillery all the way up to level 5. So artillery is really valuable for those explosive damage types, particularly gun lance shelling, sticky ammo, wyvern ammo, charge blade impact files. Correct me if I'm missing any, okay guys? Add a comment in the comment section if I'm missing any. But those are the main ones, right? So you're going to have some skills, some attacks that deal explosive damage, and artillery is going to just directly raise the damage of that. That's all there is to it. Often you find that the artillery skill is paired with the focus skill, and for different reasons for each weapon, but they often are put together. So you'll build artillery on a heavy bowgun for, let's say, the sticky ammo, and then you bring the focus skill. What's going on? It's because you've got kind of like these leftover skill slots for another skill, and what you're doing is you're bringing focus so that your special ammo type comes back sooner, maybe like wyvern snipe. In that case, you also bring the special ammo boost, which is the true shot decoration, right? So artillery, focus, special ammo boost, right? Those all go together on like a heavy bowgun, even a light bowgun, because you got the wyvern blast. And then you have gun lances, right? So on a long shelling gun lance, you're going to have artillery, of course, for the shelling, but you're also going to bring the focus decoration, because if you charge to the shells of a long shelling gun lance, which is often what you're doing, the charging is going to go by faster, just shortens the duration of it. So long shelling becomes more powerful with the focus decoration. And then you have the charge blades. I mentioned impact files, not the elemental files. Impact files are affected by artillery. And what you often see with all charge blade builds is you bring the focus decoration, because this allows you to fill your files faster. And charge blade, you know, it's all about charging your shield, your sword, and you need the files to be filled in order to do that. So focus is really a very important skill for that particular weapon. So you see artillery and focus together all the time. Next up, we have the spread shot, normal shot, and pierce shot skills. These are some of the highest damage increasing skills in the game. You're going to be putting them on your bows and your bow guns. And they're kind of more complicated now, or more expensive if you want to say that, because you can actually take 2 levels of them. What do you think of that? Spread shot level 2, normal shot level 2, pierce shot level 2. For bows, that's especially complex, because now the idea of taking 2 levels of spread shot and 2 levels of normal shot, how are you fitting everything else into your build? It's something I actually have not explored yet. The game just came out, right? Anyways, you're not going to be skipping these skills. They're really important and they add much more damage than most of the other skills when you're using spread shot, power shot, when you're using normal shot, normal arrows, and when you're using pierce shot or dragon. I don't know, is the dragon piercer any good yet? Probably not. But pierce ammo is very good, especially now that we have pierce ammo rapid fire level 2. Next up, we have the Mighty Bow skill for the bows and the Spare Shot skill for the bow guns. So Mighty Bow basically gives you a 3rd level of charge on your bows. This is incredibly important for your damage output. It's just another, it's kind of like Spread Shot, Normal Shot. You just don't go without it. You just don't. And then Spare Shot is really important on the bow guns. What this is going to do is going to give you a percentage of a chance for your bullet not to be counted. So it doesn't come out of your clip at all. It's just like a free bullet that gets shot. This is also really important. It does 2 things. Increases the size of your clip. We already talked about how important that is for damage. It does another thing too, though. It actually increases the reserve of your ammo. Some ammo types, you have a very limited number of shots you can take. And Spare Shot, since it doesn't really pull from reserves, Spare Shot is super important for those ammo types that have a limited reserves. Okay, so Mighty Bow and Spare Shot. All right, we're almost there, guys. The 9th place skill is the Airborne skill. So I feel like people haven't been talking enough about this. You guys noticed that the jumping attack power for Airborne went from 10% to 30%, right? That's nutso, man. The reason why is because it's a percentage increase. When we're talking about a 10% increase, it scales. So if the attack values of your weapons used to be 300, but now they're 500, percentage skills keep up with that. 10% of 300 was 30. 10% of 500 was 50. Except Airborne was actually also buffed, so we're talking about 30%. 30% of 300 is 90. 30% of 500 is 150. So you can see how important the scaling is, because the skill just gets better and better the stronger your weapons are, and we have stronger weapons in Iceborne now. This is why scaling is so important. So I wanted to give a special kind of shout out to the flight skill, because the flight decoration, because it's actually become more valuable than it really ever was. The buff was large and the weapons deal more damage, and it's a percentage based skill, which should give you a hint about the skill that I think is the most powerful in Monster Hunter World. Let's talk about it. Coming in 10th place on my list, and my choice for the strongest skill in the game, is still the Fortify skill, or the Fortitude decoration. So, let's read it real fast. Increases attack by 10% and defense by 15% each time you feint. You can feint twice. It allows you to feint twice. Why is this a big deal? Because when you're playing by yourself, you get 3 lives. You really only need that last life. So you can feint twice, be on your last life, but have this stack twice, 10% attack and 15% defense. It's absolutely nuts. If you've never done this, you need to go try this. You can test it yourself, either by running it in a fight where perhaps you fainted twice. You can even manually activate it before you go fight a monster. Just go in naked with the Fortitude skill on your body, knock yourself out with the Mega Barrel Bombs, and then when you go back to the camp, go ahead and throw on an armor set that also has Fortitude in it. It has to have Fortitude in it as well. You can eat at the canteen at that point for attack up large or defense up large, whatever you're going to do. And you can eat your demon drugs, you can eat your demon powder, you can eat your might seed. Your attack values will be crazy high, but so will your defense as well. And here's the craziest part about Fortitude. It's a small decoration. It costs 1 small decoration slot. It's crazy how cheap this skill is. And it basically trivializes playing solo. Oh, you fainted while playing solo? No problem. You come back with 10% attack. You fainted twice? You come back with 20% attack and defense of 30%. More defense, right? So, yeah, I consider this to be the cheapest, most powerful skill in the game. I think it's so powerful, Capcom could consider nerfing it, because I think in a bit of a sense, I think that it trivializes solo play, and it's absolutely your best skill for solo play. Now, what about in multiplayer? You definitely shouldn't be dying intentionally in multiplayer, but even in multiplayer, it's not like people never die. You could bring this on your build if you have a leftover small decoration slot, which isn't hard to imagine, and if you were to faint, you would come back into the fight with a 10% damage increase and a 15% defense increase, which is better than just about anything. Once again, it's working by percentages, which are fractions, right? All the weapons have scaled up, so you have some skills that really didn't. They give you like a flat increase to something like your attack damage or your affinity, or, actually the defense boost skill was buffed, so I can't say that about the defense boost skill. But Fortify works by percentages. So the weapons have all gone up in damage, and Fortify gives you 10% of that, which is so nice. It still is. I still consider this the strongest skill in the game, even though it is contingent on the condition that you faint twice. Obviously you probably won't be using this for speed running, but I'm pretty sure even speedrunners used this. So in the past, you had some fights like the Extreme Behemoth, maybe the Ancient Lushan. They had so much health that your odds of defeating them would go up significantly, solo that is. Defeating them solo would go up significantly if you procced Fortify twice at the beginning of the fight using a technique with the Mega Barrel Bombs, and then you would be able to do enough damage that you would be able to knock the monster out before the timer ended. You'd actually run out of time. You just wouldn't have enough time to defeat the monster. So even the speedrunners were using Fortify, and really that should tell you something about how valuable the skill is in terms of receiving attack increases, but also, again, the defense side of it is really, really nice as well. So that is my top 10 list for the strongest skills in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. If you would like to pop into our Discord server and say hi, be sure to do that. There's a link in the description of the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.